Then people are classified as casuals. So you go to a company, you go to the NGO, and there is this lady who prepares for them tea every day. She's done it for the last 10 years. And they're calling her casual. You meant to be paying their NSSF. There is a difference between casual work and an employee being casual. The typical example of casuals that you can't pay for. At your offices, you've got a compound. You've got grass, okay? But once a month, there is a guy that you call in the neighborhood to come and slash. He slashes, you pay him his 10K, he goes away. That one is not your employee. But someone that you've maintained on your payroll and you are paying them every month to cook your food is your employee. Even if the nature of work they are doing in your wisdom is called casual work. But you need that casual work to be done on a consistent basis. So you can't employ someone for 10 years and say, yeah, but their work is casual. But you need that work. And you are paying them for doing that work. So you cannot classify them as casuals in order not to pay for them. And finally, expatriates. So under the law, even if you employ expatriates, you still meant to pay NSSF. And the choice is on the employer. If the contract for that expatriate is 3 years and above, okay, right away you pay both the 5 and 10%, and that money reverts to that employee at the time when they are leaving Uganda, or if they qualify under the other benefits, even if they are still resident in Uganda. But if the contract is below 3 years, again the choice is yours. One alternative given in the law is we pay what we call a special contribution. That is 10% per month. And that employee doesn't have to pay the 5%. That special contribution is income to the fund. The drafters of the law, I think, were trying to discourage you from employing people outside Uganda. So then you are being made to pay 10% every month, okay? And that money cannot be redeemed by the employee. But even if the contract is below 3 years, you can also choose from the word go to say, wait, it's less than that period, but you can still pay the 5 and 10, in which case then that money is going directly to that employee. The reason why people feared to pay for expatriates who are here for less than that period in the past was because the law then required that they needed to have saved for at least 4 financial years in order to get their money back. That changed now. It does not matter how long they have saved. It doesn't matter how long they have been here. For as long as they have saved with the fund and they are leaving the country or they qualify under any other benefit, they are paid all their money. So that choice purely lies with the employer. So my closing remark is to say thank you for giving the fund an opportunity to engage. I've spoken to the chief here. We're going to collaborate even more. We'll also look for the forum to look for opportunities under which we can collaborate and support you. Because when you are vibrant, when you are performing and you are employing people, then we can also cover our mandate of ensuring that their future is covered. God bless you.
Bless you too. Thank you very, very much, Geoffrey, for those very kind comments and responses. Johnson, Mr. Tumusime, any quick comments?
Thank you, Sheila. Mine was mainly around, I think from Dan, you asked about doing business with NGOs. And for me, that one, I think in regards to NITA, like my colleague talked about certification, you could come, NITA runs a non-discriminatory standard operating procedures for certifying in companies, individuals, or even training institutions on their competence, proficiency, and even experience in providing these IT services. So you as in the private sector and the NGOs can take advantage of this service. We provide these certifications at different levels, depending on experience, the level of business, and compliance with all these other regulatory organizations. So you could take advantage of that. And the other issue was ease of doing business. Like all my all regulators here confirm, as long as we can integrate and automate all these processes, we've already seen the results of some of this working, for instance, in the driving license processes. It's now a lot easier. All of the regulators here have integrated with NIRA through NITA, and they don't have to ask you for so much data. So as long as we continue the process of integrating and And using these e-services, we should be able to improve the way you do business with government as a whole and with the different regulators here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those responses, Johnson, and of course, thank you again, Christine, for being here. URSB, Rachel, any quick comments? I know there were many for URSB, and the conversations can continue, but any quick responses, Rachel?
Thank you, Sheila. I think URSB had more pressing issues, and I think I'll comment on all of them. And the first one being, what is a legal entity? A legal entity, according to the law, the Companies Act, and according to a certain case, Salmon versus Salmon, for some of you who went through law school, according to that case, a company is a legal person. It is a separate and distinct person, and it can sue or be sued. This basically means that a company is a person, it's a natural person. It has hands, it has a brain, it acts through its shareholders, it acts through its subscribers, through its directors. It has blood. It is basically a natural person. And as you can see, all these regulators are hinged onto the mandate of URSB. If I'm to draw an analogy, we are the clergy who baptize, who give, basically, who name the child. When you take your child for baptism, the clergy asks you, the clergyman asks you, name this child. So when you name that company a particular name, we are very pertinent to note that the name passes the test. We don't want to name your company a funny name. It has to be a name that builds a brand, that identifies you, that can easily draw clientele to that particular company or entity. And as you can see, being a legal entity, it has perpetuity. It can live on even when the subscribers die. So those are the benefits of this particular entity being a legal person. We've seen companies where the owners are long gone, they've demised the mukwanos, but the company still lives on because there is what we call transmission. You just notify the register of companies that the owners, that some members have died, and there is a legal process we take you through so that you appoint other legal representatives. So that is basically, for someone who wanted to know what a legal entity is, it's basically a process of incorporation, a process of registration. And URSB is the only institution that has the mandate to incorporate these entities. So we really have a wide mandate, and we are enjoying the monopoly. Now, question 2 was the difference between companies limited by guarantee and not-for-profit. These are the same, one and the same. Companies limited by guarantee are basically the ones which basically, even if they make profits, the dividends made, the members have to make sure that they are plowed back to promote the objectives of the company. They don't share profits the way companies limited by shares do. No. They are supposed to make sure that all the profits, even when we are incorporating these companies, we make sure that the objectives highlight this, that all the funding, all the profits, you can do investment, you can invest in land, in different assets. As I've said, company is an entity. It can own property, it can own buildings, it can own cars. But as you invest, make sure that the profits are plowed back to promote the objectives of the company. So what is the link between URSB and the NGO Bureau? I think my seniors highlighted on that. Basically, we hold different mandates, and most people come when they are confused. You know, the NGO Bureau demands that I get a certificate, and yet I've already acquired a certificate from the NGO Bureau. These are two different mandates. We act under different arms. So the focal point is you attaining a certificate of incorporation to make you acquire a permit. So when you get this certificate, you can access all these services. The NGO Bureau, as explained, has its own mandate. So somebody also asked that, why does URSB sabotage names which have social justice and forums? Basically, as I said earlier, we do not want to baptize certain names. And we are very particular about names. Names that have long statements. Names that start with the. Names that start with Uganda, of course, have to go through approvals because Uganda is, it has a particular domain. There we require you to provide a recommendation letter from a particular umbrella body. So when we notice social justice, that is supposed to be an objective. Don't indicate objectives in the name. Just make your name brief and precise, but not an abbreviation. An issue to do with forums. These ones are viewed as bimeza. Basically, forums where people come out, they are more inclined to political organizations, where people come out to air their views on particular pressing issues. We see it as a fora to address particular issues. So to avoid all those suspicions, we omit the word forums. But the catching point is the name must not be inclined to any political party. It should be obvious, such that if anybody, an ordinary person, the test of an ordinary person in the public reads it, it's very innocent. Somebody asked about the annual returns for URSB and the NGO Bureau. Of course, having different mandates, we also require you to be compliant and file your annual returns. Here you're informing the Register of Companies about the status quo of your company, what is happening. Basically, is the company secretary still the same? Are the directors still the same? Has the company acquired property? If it acquired, is it planning to sell this property? It's basically an accountability and a transparency platform where even those who want to come on board can know, because we have what we call a search room where it is the information is public domain. We don't hide, it's not confidential. Police can come and find out if there are any illegal activities, and they can lift the corporate veil and come for the directors. So it is very important that you furnish annual returns, particularly for URSB. These are different from URA returns and the NGO Bureau returns. And these ones only pay 30,000 per month, you can imagine. And our services are now all online, all digital. Actually, I wanted to address the issue of what filing returns entail and the contact person. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me summarize. We have brief skits on our online services where you can go and peruse the processes of filing these annual returns. But it's very simple and simplified to promote ease of doing business. Okay, of course, somebody commented on Article 29 of the Constitution, and I know, yes, the Constitution overrides every act, but it's not supposed to be read in isolation. It's supposed to be read hand in hand with other laws, other governing laws. So if the right to assembly also is hinged on the right to promoting activities that are morally acceptable in the penal code. So if you're organizing to meet to promote certain activities that are illegal, that are illegally embedded in the Penal Code Act, then it's not acceptable. We've not ratified certain acts to promote certain activities. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for freely sharing with us the thinking behind some of these, the questions and the responses by URSP. Sorry for putting you so much under pressure, but it's, colleagues, when lunchtime, please interact with Rachel. You can ask the questions, and they'll still be answered online. Lastly, our town clerk, any parting shots from KCCA?
Thank you. I want to comment on 3 issues. CBOs, the issues to do with CBOs came on. And as KCCA, we do register CBOs. We have a clear process upon which these CBOs are supposed to go through before registration. And the list of all these requirements is available within our divisions. The issuance of certificates is centralized. Certificates are issued at City Hall. I actually sign them off myself. But the application process starts from the divisions, and then submissions are sent to City Hall, and then we sign off the certificates. Charging MOUs, fees for process MOUs, that's not true. In cases here, we don't charge any fees to sign MOUs with any organization. On the contrary, we would be really interested to have these MOUs signed with the NGOs, because we appreciate how much you actually contribute to our work plan, to the development of this country. So for us, we're actually looking out forward to have MOUs, as many MOUs signed with many organizations, so they are able to contribute towards our work as a city. As you might realize, there is a lot of work that we do to reach the level of actually signing an MOU, but also issuing a recommendation. I have to visit the NGOs to understand what they are doing. And in all this work, we actually spending money, but we don't charge any. MOUs are not charged at all. I wanted to clarify on that. Then there was also a concern that NGO monitoring committees do not know what they are doing. At least not with us. We know what we are doing. We have the law that is supposed to guide us. We know who the members are, and we have a clear process upon which we are able to finally come to a final decision, and as far as whether an NGO should be given a recommendation and sign an MOU with KCCA or not. We have that clear process. Our committee sits every month to look into the business of NGOs, and basically top on our agenda is always the list of NGOs that have applied to have MOUs with us, but also to get recommendations for registration with the NGO Bureau, where we are able to receive reports from our field teams, and as far as these NGOs are concerned. And the membership for this monitoring committee is very, very clear. And apart from the representative of NGOs, all the members on the committees are public servants. We have the DISO, we have the executive secretary. Executive secretaries serve on full-time basis. So we have no issues to do with this NGO monitoring committee. And instead, the executive director, I know is here, NGO Bureau. Instead, the operations of the NGO monitoring committee, as well as the whole process of signing MOUs, on the contrary, actually enters into our budget. But I mean, for us, we get funds from the consolidated funds, so we are well covered in that area. So, executive director, I want to confirm to you that our NGO monitoring committees are active, and we are doing our work as provided by the law. What we probably need to focus on, if there is any NGO that is claiming that in the process, local governments, I don't want to speak for other local governments are charging fees, that would tell you something, that probably there is a problem somewhere. Maybe this NGO is not on ground. Because if the NGO was on ground, there is no way a local government would try to charge any fees midway, because you are complementing on the budget for the local government. You are contributing to the development of the district. Why would we charge the fees for MOUs? So, executive director, I think that is something that probably maybe you need to interest yourself in. Because you would tell that there is probably a problem somewhere. So they could be throwing it on the side of government, but also when there is a problem on the side of the NGO.
Thank you very much.
The only fees that we collect are fees for the CBOs, the 20,000, executive director. That is the fees that we collect, and it is paid in the bank. We don't put it in our pockets. It's paid in the bank. For the CBOs, they pay 20,000 shillings.
Thank you.
Submit.
Thank you very much, Town Clerk. Let us join our hands to really thank Aisha. Even though we are hungry, the club should be uniform nicely. We're going to thank our keynote speaker and our panelists for a job well done. 1, 2, 3, we go. Thank you very much. I hand over to Yona. Yona, we are in between lunch.
Thank you. Mine is a brief one. First, to pass an apology for denying your right to food at the right time. Kindly register our apologies as the organizers. Second is to thank these regulators. I've done trainings across African continent, mainly on risk assessment and MLCTF, that is anti-money laundering and counterterrorism. There are certain people you cannot call in the room. I know Sydney knows his colleagues across Africa. If you see him here, equally, there are some NGOs leaders you cannot call in the room because I've worked with several NGOs. So again, I request, clap for the regulators here. To us, like I said, it is let us reason together. Again, back to the Bible, that maybe my people are dying because of lack of what? Some of the aspects we've learned here maybe can drive us to the next step. Though the language sometimes kept on balancing, going up, and you imagine, okay, wait a minute, have I had the right thing? But I think it's journey in progress. We are going to upload, there are very many questions online, and we are going to form what we call action points, and we shall follow up with the regulators. Already regulators are ready to work with us, and we shall be happy to form a task force. To me, I believe in collective power, to see to it that we can act as a compliance watch, and we see how best to mitigate any issues that accrue. I bothered them throughout the night. Again, I apologize. During the day, I called everyone. I didn't want to leave any stone unturned, and I'm happy that I've all showed up. Allow me at this point in time, without wasting time, introduce the DPI team that saw all this together. They're not going to stand. Please just view the screen. The tech team, and I think you are capable of the reading the names. We are a very small team, but yet very big. We just have 3 advisory board members and 7 staff, but we are ready to move. And because of our approach of collective model, in all our products, we work as working groups. And we've been able to achieve all that we achieved and what we intend to achieve as a very small team. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite my colleague, my brother, my friend, co-collaborator, a partner, none other than Moses Isoba, to give closing remarks.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody. We are way past the hour, so I'll try to keep it short. But I would like to join everybody, and on behalf of Uganda National NGO Forum and DPI, to specifically thank the NGO Bureau for your presence here, the Finance Intelligence Authority for your presence here. I don't like it when we say fear. It's not fear, it is the Finance Intelligence Authority. And then the Uganda Revenue Authority in absentia, NSSF, NITA, KCCA, and the URSB. Thanks for making the time. We know how difficult it is. We know that you have grossly crowded schedules, but for you to be with us from the morning up to now, we really want to thank you. And of course, I want to thank our colleagues at DPI, with whom we are collaborating to midwife this talk to the regulator. We think it's an important initiative, and we think it brings the regulator and the sector together in terms of how we can take our work forward. Just for avoidance of doubt, as a sector, we place a very high premium on compliance. For us, plan A is to comply, plan B is to comply. Even when we think we do not like the law, we always say that's good to be on the right side of what you consider bad law, than to be caught on the wrong side of what might be a bad law. So as the sector, we look at compliance very seriously, and so that's why we do the quarterly dialogue meeting with the Minister of Internal Affairs, and then this talk, the regulator meeting. We think it is very important as part of our legitimacy. Our legitimacy is on two levels. We want to be legitimate as organizations in terms of our institutional health. That's why my colleague from Geneva was talking about the quality assurance certification mechanism. I refer my colleague with quoting the scriptures that, wherever the angels are gathered, the devil also will be there. We are cognizant that, in terms of the sector, there are maybe people that may not be necessarily wedded to the values. And therefore, the quality assurance certification mechanisms tries to speak to the aspect of substantive legitimacy. That, when you come into our premises, what you see as our values, that is our DNA. And we shouldn't be doing anything to the contrary. And that's why we think that self-regulation is important. We want to comply with the administrative and legislative requirements of the state, which is our procedural legitimacy, but we think that the first point of our legitimacy is us being able to be who we are. This is an important conversation for us. For us in the sector, we know that in the past couple of years, we have witnessed multiple negative narratives being pervaded around about the sector. We've been called names, which we are not. We are law-abiding citizens of this country that are interested in the interest of this country. As citizens, we have nowhere to go. This is our home as Uganda, and therefore we would like to join every Ugandan for the development of this country. And therefore, when we called you as regulators to be with us, it is an attempt to be able to demystify the negative narratives that are often pervaded against the sector. Listening to the NSSF representative, it was heartwarming to realize that we are 74% in terms of compliance, and presenting about 6.2% of the active people that are making contributions, which is an important thing. And as the executive director of the NGO Bureau did mention, we are in a process of trying to undertake a study on what is the value of the sector. It's an NGO sector study, very comprehensive, to be able to respond to some of these negative narratives. How much are we contributing to the income of this country? How much are we contributing to the development of this country? How much are we contributing to all other things? And we hope that once this is undertaken together with the NGO Bureau, it will perhaps be able to insulate us as a sector from some of these narratives. Definitely, one of the things that has been discussed quite a number of times is the aspect of the secondary level regulators. And Mr. Stephen Okello has had this times more than number, that as we get down to the subnational level, you find very overzealous people, and they come in multiple colors. They could be the presidential representatives at the district, the one we call the RDCs. They could be, the DSOs, but that in itself creates a huge problem. We've reported to Mr. Okello a number of times where this has happened, and even registration at that level has become completely very difficult, especially on the issue of names. Where a name that contains words like governance is refused, accountability is refused, network is refused, and and for this time I need to introduce myself as Executive Director of the Uganda National NGO Forum. It has the word forum, but we're not a chimeza. We've been around for the last 25 years, and the Executive Director of the NGO Bureau can confirm we are not a chimeza. We've been part of the development of this country for the last 25 years. But that said, we as a sector, we would like to give our unequivocal commitment to the different regulators that we are ready to comply, despite the multiple layers of compliance. Compliance oftentimes is tedious, but we make our commitment to comply. We know there are a couple of things that may need to be worked on. For instance, or the functionality of the district NGO monitoring committees. As a sector, we did receive letters from KCCA, and for the KCCA is not there, to make nominations. We did make nominations, and our representative on the KCCA is Dr. Frank Muhereza, the Executive Director of CBR. Last week when we met, and I think he said it in the presence of Mr. Stephen Okello, that he hasn't had a meeting at the KCCA. But we hope that now that will be worked out. The issues of the fees continues to be a thorn. These fees that are illegal. When we had a meeting with the Minister of Internal Affairs, this was reported, and he said they are illegal and they are illegal. And they continue to be asked. And we do not want to put the blame on the victim. I think this is something that needs to be worked on. But once again, we would like to thank you, to thank everybody, those that are online, for making the time to be with us all through. We thank you very much for the different participants in the House. We also want to thank you that you made the time to be with us. Thank you again to the regulators. It's a little unusual to have the regulators sit tight for all this long time. But we want to thank you once again for making the time. The conversation that the Uganda National NGO Forum and DPI, what we've actually had is that we do not want this talk to the regulators to be a one-off event. We want this to be an event that we hold regularly. We have these conversations. And in case anybody says anything to the contrary about the sector, you should be our first line of defense. When the democratic governance facility was closed, definitely it wasn't only the sector that was suffering, but the communities of people that we were serving. And of course also what goes into the chiti. There was a decline in remittances to NSSF, a decline in remittances to URA. And so when this kind of things happens, our first line of defense is the regulators. And because we want to make this a regular event, we want to launch this now. And I would like to invite the regulators to do the launch of our talk to the regulator. And this is going to be done by appending a signature on this board with perhaps an acronym of the agency, whether it is
AR.
Okay, so yeah, and I will just perhaps starting from Mr. Stephen Okello and then the rest to be able to sign there as a commitment that yes, this is not the end, it is indeed just the beginning. Thank you so much. You are welcome. Anywhere. Yeah. We have enough space here. The name, yes, yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Okello. Thank you, our regulators. Just append your signature and we shall continue the conversations. We're all going to sign. For those who want to sign, please feel free. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you very much. Mr. Sajabi there signing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. That's Nita, you.
We have a lot of space as well. Thank you.
Rachel.
Here, this side. so that we use up all the space. Yeah, no, yeah, signature and then.
Thank you very much. Moses, you can then sign, and Yona, and then you can invite our colleague, Mrs. Sekaja, of course, one of our NGO leaders, our networks. Please come and append your signatures. Yona, please invite the partners to append their signatures. Thank you,
Please,
Moses.
all our development partners, colleagues, members of the Human
Colleagues,
Rights
feel
Defenders
free.
family,
Robert,
please
feel free.
join
Mr.
in.
Nsubuga, our upcountry participants, please feel free. You've been here. We have spoken to the regulator. Albert, I know you don't disappoint. Thank you very much. Farouk, please come and sign in as well. Thank you very much. And then, of course, Moses, at the end, you're going to have to close the meeting. Thank you, Mrs. Sekaja. Come and close Moses as we.
With the signature of the launch and the fact that all our regulators have appended their signature, we invite as many of you present to be able to sign on this. I would like to take the opportunity to close this Talk to the Regulator meeting now and invite you for lunch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Moses. Let's clap for Moses. Let's appreciate Moses. I think he closed that off very well. Thank you very much, Moses. We have lunch. Lunch is in the Addis Hall. If you just walk out a little bit on your left, our corner, just there on this floor. Addis, you're all invited for lunch. Thank you very much for braving the hours and hours of this first series of Talk to Your Regulator. Our upcountry participants, please see the logistical table for a refund to your transport. Thank you again, and we thank God that this has gone on very well.